Did it? Oh, shit.
Or
So we did the Great Video Game Collapse of like '83, and when did it happen? It was a large-scale collapse of basically the entire video game market and the games market in America, causing most people to stop producing and making games from '83 to '88 until Nintendo came back to America with their huge market. The collapse happened in '83, just shortly after or just shortly before the release of the ET game. It's never really fully stated. The causes were a flooded market, loss of publishing control, competition from home computers, and inflation.
the Atari was not the only game systems where you could swap games in a cartridge, but by the late 1970s to 80s, it was the most popular game system. While the Atari VCS was a successful game system, other consoles started making their own gaming systems, such as the Magnavox Odyssey, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, the Atari 2500, and the Vectrex. An analyst for Goldman Sachs said that in 1983, demand for video games was up 100% from 1982, but manufacturing the output increased by 175%, creating a surplus in the market. As you can see, this created problems in many stores because of storage space, and every producer wanted their game in a specific store to make more money.
A small group of Atari programmers broke off and formed Activision, which made games for the Atari 2600. Atari stopped being the developer. Publishers up there released games and allowed anyone to publish their games on their console around 1992.
After 1982, the number of third-party developers and publishers jumped from 3 to 30. By 1983, that number of developers and publishers who would prove that the market would be inflated.
Because computers generally had more memory and faster processors than consoles, they can make or permit more games than a console. By 1982, new desktop computers were providing better colors, graphics, and sound, and desktop computers started booming. Writable storage media allowed players to save games in progress, a useful feature for increasingly complex games, which was not available on the consoles of the era. In 1983, it was officially announced by a Game Man magazine that video game consoles were dead and computers were hot. Computers were like the Commodore 64, were specifically designed to play games.
During the 1970s and 80s, the quarter made about much less than the dollars, and game companies wanted to petition to have the Eisenhower dollar made into quarter size so they could make more money off of machines. So they brought Congress into a meeting, and when that happened, the Susan B. Anthony dollar was created. The public generally disliked this dollar, and it created a lot of conflict. And eventually, the Susan B. Anthony dollar was just deemed useless because it was so much and so often misconstrued as a quarter. So the public a lot of people didn't enjoy it, and the games just failed because of it. The results, immediate, like the Great Burial of '83, the Japanese dominance in the market later on, the impact of third-party development and computer game growth.
Great Burial of 1983. After the immediate drop in Atari stocks, these cartridges were worth the same amount of money as dirt. In September 1983, the game E.T. was buried in Alamogordo, New Mexico. That burial caused the American market to be dissuaded from producing video games. And I think that's it.
No, that's not it.
It just doesn't like people.
Yeah.
There you go, you got it.
I got it? All right.
Japanese dominance. Japan had a still thriving games market. The thriving games market allowed Nintendo and Sega to seize the market. The Famicom was a Nintendo-made home entertainment system released in 1983, alongside Sega's new console. Nintendo's release of the NES over in America received the nearly dead home console market and netting them around $5 billion.
There you go.
The Atari 2600 was released unlicensed game with no protection ownership wise. This CNES was made so it didn't allow cartridges made by anything other than Nintendo. Nintendo released Golden Seal of Approval was imprinted on games before being released to protect the public from poor quality games.
Computer game growth. Due to the console market crash, PC games became more and more popular. PC gaming became more accessible and friendly to many, with games like Sierra Games and King's Quest IX. Games like Wolfenstein and 3D and Doom and Gloom released really kicked off the PC games market in 1980. Citations.
Okay. All right. So, what did you learn?
Games basically died.
Okay. So, yes, poor quality is one thing. They did have a lot of bad ports. Unfortunately, like E.T., there was a short time period when they were asked to be created, so they were being created in like 6 weeks because they wanted that to be out in time for Christmas. So therefore, that was actually a demo. The Pac-Man game was actually a demo that they put out, and Atari went, okay, we have a demo, we're putting that up because they wanted to get out as fast as possible. So they were trying to compete with these other third-party makers. So they had that they lost control of the games and they lost quality, and that's one of the big things that happened. So, good job.